Hey there, and thank you for checking out this video. I'm Brad Johnson of Bradley Johnson Productions, and this video is how to become a successful online writer in 90 days or fewer without being a tech wizard. So first, I just want to give you a little bit of background on me and how I got started on writing. So I didn't always know that I wanted to make a living out of writing and producing online content for other people to learn based off of, but I realized quickly that it's a huge opportunity out there, and for anyone who's willing to put in the work and wants to learn how to build an audience online and has a passion for it, it's a relatively straightforward thing to be able to do, and it's very rewarding too, especially if it's something that you've already done partly for your vocation before transitioning over to writing. But something that I noticed is it's very overwhelming these days, just the sheer amount of information that's out there and all the technology that people are peddling and saying, you have to buy this and you have to buy that. And I myself have bought quite a few tools over the years, and many of them have been very useful. So I'm not making the case that that's like a bad thing or that you shouldn't use tools or anything like that. It can always make your work easier and faster if you use it right, but there's a lot of misinformation out there, and it can feel very lonely, especially if you're getting started for the first time, or if you don't have any friends and family who have done similar things. It can feel like you're just fighting a constant uphill battle, and it can seem like only the people who are kind of born with it, or the people who know the right people, are the ones who become successful as writers. But as it turns out, anyone can do this, especially if they adopt three methods in particular that I've found have worked for me. And these three tools these three strategies have really just completely reworked how I've thought about writing, and it's taught me things that I now understand are at the bedrock of any successful writer and anyone who's successfully making a living online, for that matter. So let's get into those three things. So the first thing is persistence. You have to be super persistent with what you're doing. There's no writer that I know that is successful now that wrote a few things one day and then decided to call it quits. That's often where people fall down and think that it's not for them. And it is hard to feel encouraged when you're writing and you post something and people just kind of trickle in, or people don't even read it at all. You might not see any shares or likes or comments on your writing at first, and it's totally understandable that you would be frustrated by that, because it's deflating. You put in all this work and then no one wants to read it. Well, guess what? You have to keep going, and you have to make it a part of who you are. Something that has helped me a lot, especially recently in the writing world, is I heard from Jeff Goins, or I read in his writing that he used a quote that basically said, "Identity precedes activity." So basically what that means is you have to decide who you are before who you are is going to be producing what you want to do. So the person that you are decides what your activity is going to look like on a daily and weekly basis. So people who want to get fit decide that that's who they're going to become. It's not just something that they're doing randomly or arbitrarily. It's someone that they've decided to be. So you have to decide to be a writer before writing becomes natural and normal. And you can certainly do it without taking that step, but it's a lot harder. So that's my first tip, is be persistent and make it a part of who you are. So like, create a writing habit, pick a day in your schedule and do it every single time, no matter what. And as you do that, you will become more efficient at it. It'll feel more normal. And I've heard a lot of other successful writers too say that being a successful writer is just like developing any other muscle. If you work it out, it's going to perform for you. And if you train it, it will be able to give you the desired result that you want. So that's the first tip. Let's go to the second tip, which is find a platform that works for you. So with the with all the platforms that are available on the internet, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's your own blog, there's Quora, there's Tumblr, there's Google Blogger, you know, the list goes on. That's only a fraction of some of the more popular ones, but I'm sure you get the point. There's WordPress, you know, there's 1,000 different platforms that you can pick from. So the tricky thing is knowing what is worth your time and what is going to get you that result that you want, which is persistence and people continuing to read and respond to your writing. So something that I've found is you're never going to have all the time that you want to be able to master all of them, and you shouldn't try, because that would be a waste of your time. So instead what you should be doing is making a list of ones that you've used before and that you've liked, or looking into ones that you enjoy reading content on and working on mastering those. But I would say really go with one, and my favorite is WordPress. So I mean, that's where I publish my own blog posts, and it's just the easiest one for me. But if you really want to be active on more, that's totally fine, but I would just go with 2 or 3, because if you start trying to do everything on your own on 10 different platforms every single day, you're just never going to have enough time to optimize everything, and it's not going to go well. So especially if you don't have an assistant. And yeah, the best thing to do is just, you know, pick your platform, decide what is easiest for you technologically speaking, and just go from that point and make your writing habit stick with those 1, 2, or 3 platforms at the most. And then the third biggest thing that I've learned, not only from current and previous job experiences, but just my own study of figuring out what works and what doesn't as far as making a presence for yourself online, is you have to do your research on keywords, and you have to find out what people are looking for and what they're searching for. Because if you're not taking time to figure out what other people want to read and what other people find valuable, you will get stuck or lost in the sea of content out there that doesn't get found by anyone. And I've figured this out the hard way, and I've also figured out what it feels like when you actually achieve it, and when you find content and produce content that people want to read and are eager to share and stuff like that. So, you know, doing keyword research through Google Keyword Planner, or if you have other software that allows you to do keyword research for a low or no cost at all, using something like that can be extremely beneficial to you, because there's nothing worse than putting a bunch of time and effort into producing some content that you're passionate about that other people are never going to read or don't find useful enough to want to share with others and read fully themselves. There's an author named Chris Fox, I believe, who has a couple books out on Kindle, on Amazon Kindle, about writing to market, and that is basically the phrase and the idea in a nutshell. Is you want to find content that people on the internet already deem useful, so that you can produce either your own version of it, or so that you can see where there's a gap in the market and be able to produce content for it. So that's really what it comes down to, is, you know, doing SEO for your blog posts is very important too, and I'll probably do future videos on that at some point. But finding what people are searching for and looking at just popular content, seeing what's already working for people, or even following your favorite bloggers, authors, writers, and seeing what their audiences are talking about, seeing if there's any reviews saying, you know, I loved his product because it covered this, but I wish it would have talked about that, or I loved her template on this, but I wish she would have covered that type of a thing. Looking for those holes and building your content strategy around that is huge, and it's just going to do you a world of good to utilize those 3 tips. So those are my biggest 3 tips for how to become a successful online writer in 90 days or fewer without being a tech wizard, because ultimately those things don't require you to master a bunch of new tools. It's just about applying some core strategies that are going to get you an audience over the long term and allow you to build the habits that are necessary for you to succeed. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys another time.